How do you get a fight, right? Get in a fight. How do I get an opportunity? How do I get a match? How do I get a ranking? How do I get a placement on a card? How do I do these things? And there's probably only about 10 people alive that you could ask that question to. And the number 10 is probably a little bit loose. And there are ways to get matches, and there's ways to get fights, and you're the matchmaker, and a lot of times you got your contract and let's call both guys, see if it comes together. Last minute opportunity, right? But I get some of these things. There's a way to make a fight. You can make a guy fight. You can't make somebody fight. Yeah, you can. You can make a fight if you're good at this. I'll just give you a great example. But you have guys that are really good at the sport, and you have very few guys who are really good at the business. But it's important that you understand this distinction. I'm going to use Jon Jones, right? It's not my time to go put Jon Jones down. Jon Jones is fantastic at the sport. He sucks at the business. He doesn't even know there's a business going on around him. If he heard this piece right, he wouldn't have the foggiest idea what I was saying. He's really good at the sport, but he doesn't control the business. I can't remember the last time Jon Jones has lost. I've even heard people say that he's never lost. I can't remember the last time Conor McGregor won. It's been meaningful. Who's where in the business? Because Red Panty Night still runs the day. Red Panty Night is still real. And for Conor to stay the boss even after a loss, how did he do that? Why? Why him? And the first thing that you have to understand is he is one guy that stepped forward to play that game. And he's only playing that game with a very small handful of other guys. Those are the guys that are controlling and running the business. And you have other guys that are controlling and running the sport, but it's very, very different. One you can pay your mortgage with, and one you can't. One is going to matter of the outcome of your next match. The whole house of cards comes tumbling down when you're playing the sport game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose if you're playing the business game. It's a very, very different deal. And why I tell you and I condescend to you that few guys understand, it's very few guys know. It's a hell of a lot more than you'd think. There's a lot of guys out there that pretend they don't know. It is glaringly obvious. Bo Nickal versus Chimaev. Glaringly, blinds your eyes. It's so obvious to make the match. Chimaev is without an opponent. It is so obvious. And you could get the match. What's that going to mean? In the situation we're in right now, how would that look? Well, one guy gets a phone call and the other guy gets a phone call. And they both agree. You could get the match, but you could have made the match on Saturday night. You could have made that match happen. And the pay is the same. Your eligibility for of the night bonuses are the same if you're fighting bums or you're fighting studs. So I would understand the argument of what's the point of trying to fight the studs if they're paying me the same to fight the bums. I would understand that. And it's going both ways, just so you know. Bo could have made that fight. And Bo knows that. He chose to not make that fight. But Chimaev could have made the fight too. And he knows that. And he chose to not make the fight. So now here we are. Here we are as an audience with a glaringly obvious match to put together. But that's what's going to have to happen. It's going to have to be put together, right? Because these guys didn't make it happen. I look back. I brought Jon Jones into this earlier, and I'll tell you why. I look back at Jon and Francis. Okay? You have two guys under contract at the same time, and the promoter said he wants the match. And they couldn't make it. You can tell me about the knee, and you can tell me about the other guy that's trying to drink his protein. You can do those things. But those two could have made the match. Made it. You can make a guy fight, believe me, quickly. Make him fight right now. They didn't do it. And now it's gone. And now Francis isn't under contract. And now they're doing great promotion. Now they're telling you, well, you're a pussy with all those really big muscles. Okay, that's a great start. Let's do a little bit more of that. Because when you guys were under contract and you had an opportunity, they brought you face to face and somebody turned a camera, you hugged it out and told each other how great you are and what fans you were of one another. You did anything but make a fight. And I will just bring it to your attention, right? If you want these things, go out and get them. Trespass, a crime was committed on Saturday. Any of you that followed me on YouTube Live, I read your comments. Did this whole thing. I'm talking about Volkanovski. I thought the show was over. Volk won. I listened to Volk's interview. I thought the show was over. I looked away from my screen. I came back to you guys. I talked about the event, and I read your comments. You said, Chael, you never touched on Topuria. Did you not see it? Did you not know Topuria jumped in the ring? I did not see it. I did not know he jumped in the ring. I do know he wasn't supposed to, and I do know he wasn't invited, which means Topuria entered the ring and committed a trespass because he saw an opportunity. And I love it. And there's ways to make fights happen. And now Volk's talking about him, even though he doesn't want to. Volk wants to be focused on Islam. Now he's got to address Topuria. This is what people are asking him about. It's the way the questions are going. I'm just sharing for you. There's different ways to do things, but you don't have a room full of dum-dums. Okay. You have a room full of dum-dums, but they're not as dumb as they're pretending to be. These guys that aren't compromised, they're not asking for fights. They know what they're doing. And it does turn into a very good question. If it pays the same and you're going to promote me and you're going to give me the fancy television spots, why would I call for a harder match? Why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. That's hard to disagree with. When you sit around and get fights, you go out there, you can make fights. There's two ways to do it. But don't mistake them.